So it's the end of 2017. This is December 30th, and I wanted to kind of recap the 2017 year and just go through pretty much all the greatest instances of 2017 and all of what that year or this year has entailed. And this is going to be kind of a loose format. I didn't write a whole bunch of prompts down or anything, so it's just going to be going off a lot of memory, which my memory is pretty shitty. But let's do this. So, for the greatest moments at Worlds, I think one of the most astonishing things at Worlds itself was Crash on Fenerbahce, or 1907 Fenerbahce. I'll get sued if I don't say the 1907, right? And he was on Longshu Gaming before, under the veteran Chaser, and his tutelage. And then the team tanked, and he went to Vici Gaming over in China. And so Vici Gaming then loans Fenerbahce Crash to help them since Move can't join due to visa issues or whatever. And the way that Fenerbahce basically handled Crash was phenomenal, and the minimum amount of time that they were able to stick together as a team is just crazy. Given that their synergy was actually pretty good, and you could also see just this inherent synergy from Frozen and Crash together, probably because they could communicate a little bit better because they're both Korean, right? So he would gank mid quite a lot, quite more than we were used to within the entire tournament of 2017 Worlds. So I just thought Crash on that team was phenomenal. It was crazy how they went so far within Worlds, and I don't think you could have imagined a better situation for that team than actually what had happened at Worlds. So I thought that was great. And then I thought Gigabyte Marine's upset against Fnatic was straight bananas, right? So you have this Nocturne pick, and then you have a lane swap as well too to throw up or to throw off Fnatic's whole game plan, right? And so Gam, they got ahead early, super early, and with the lane swap, and dodging the strong bot lane matchup of Fnatic. So Gam's Levi was able to get to level 6 before anyone at 5 minutes. And that's the objective of Nocturne in and of itself, is to get level 6 so that you could gank easier, right? And you can gank from any angle, so wards don't matter at all with that champion, right? And so Gigabyte Marines were all up in the Fnatic jungle the whole time during the mid game. Well, I use the mid game loosely because the game was so accelerated that I guess it's the mid lane or the mid game. So, and now No Way ended up getting fed off the play at 1915, and at this time he had been pushing sideways previously, so he had much more farm than anyone else, and they pushed that ADC advantage to close out the game. And basically Gigabyte Marines played so fucking fast that Fnatic were left stumbling, like haymaker after haymaker. They were just like, what the hell is happening? And I like that innovation from Gigabyte Marines. In that specific group against Longzhu and against Fnatic, they know, and against Immortals, they know that they can't win a straight up, regular style game. So they threw off their opponent with different strategies throughout the whole, group stage in order to maybe gain an advantage and get past group stage. Which, even if they get past group stage, they don't have a chance to win the quarterfinals. But that's besides the point, right? It's so that they could, say that they got out of groups, which would be a lot more than TSM. Speaking of which, TSM not making it out of groups is one of my big moments for Worlds 2017. I mean, you have World Elite, or WE as they like to be called, Misfits, and Flash Wolves. And when everyone saw this group released, they were just like, wow, this is the miracle group. This is the group where TSM, they make it out, they get to quarterfinals, and then if we get a good quarterfinals match, maybe somehow NA makes it to semifinals, right? And I don't think anyone expected NA to actually win Worlds at all, but it's the fact of just getting out of groups, right? But they didn't even do that. They didn't even make it out of groups, and so everyone from North America was disappointed. This was supposed to be, our one big year, but it wasn't. And I think that in itself deserves a greatest moment of Worlds, because it's something that was completely unexpected coming in. All the analysts had thought TSM were going to make it out, and yet they didn't. So it was a super big shocker, right? Now, most impressive wildcard team. Personally, I think it was the Gigabyte Marines. I loved their innovation throughout the whole tournament. I thought it was really well executed. Levi's a fucking beast, and they beat both Fnatic and Immortals with unorthodox play, and picks. With, I think it was the Urgot and Nocturne, and it's just like, to even upset those teams, which no one expected. I thought it was pretty phenomenal. I like what Gigabyte Marines are doing. They gained a ton of fans from just those plays itself, and that's sure, it might not be the best way to play the game, especially against stronger teams, but they have shown that with unorthodox style, you can sometimes pull out an upset that normally you wouldn't be able to do with just a regular gameplay style, right? And moving on to the wild card of wildcard player and most impressive player from wildcard, I think it was Frozen from Fenerbahce. I mean, this guy, he was able to play with Crash, right? So they had this crazy synergy, like I was talking about before, because they can both speak Korean. So it's like, okay, they obviously have a better synergy than with the rest of the team. Not only that, but Frozen has to be the communicator between Crash and the rest of the team, right? So just showing that and showing how he can be a communicator, and in that sense also a leader for Fenerbahce, is just extraordinary in such a short amount of time. And not only that, but you could see that he could gain leads on his own too, and not just with the help of Crash, although he did get help from Crash quite a bit. But I think they capitalized upon his leads as well. Obviously not as efficiently as they should have in rotating around the map and whatnot, and objective control and shit like that. But I still think Frozen was the most impressive player out of the wildcard teams, and that's saying a lot, looking as how Levi was, a super beast too, and everyone knows how good he is, and I'm super excited to see him in the academy team as well too. I think that's one of the best pickups that any North American team could have gotten. Now, player of the year. So I do want to stress that I haven't watched a whole lot of EU, so don't flame me for my EU pick, because I just didn't have enough time to watch it. I was watching mostly North America and LCK as well. And with the best of three switch, it was difficult to create time to actually watch EU as well. But to start it off, my player of the year for North America has to be Jensen. I voted for him summer split MVP, for spring split MVP. I am literally flabbergasted by just his insane raw mechanics to be able to dictate his lane itself. And not only that, but it's at it seems like he gets a lot of resources from Cloud9 itself, and then he's able to utilize that to carry his team and basically make it the Jensen show. But you also have Sneaky in the bot lane as like a backup because he's such a solid ADC that he doesn't really lose lane awfully bad, and he's just your backup in case shit goes wrong in the mid lane. And oftentimes that was not the case. And whenever you give Jensen a lead, he will incredibly abuse it. So that's how Cloud9 functioned as a team. And so Jensen, he basically carried Cloud9 as far as he could, as I could see, for a player. And his stats are ridiculous. I don't really want to talk about his stats too much. I mean, there's a lot of context involved with those stats, which are backed up, I think, by the contextualization of the games themselves. But he was just off the walls for 2017. I think he did as well as he could have. The spring finals, it was a little bit shaky with that play. I got to see the slow motion of the play, and it looks really ridiculous. But I don't necessarily blame him for that play specifically. I don't think a lot of players would have done anything differently either. But yeah, he's my vote for Player of the Year for NALCS. Now for EU, as few of games that I had watched, right, and most of the games being worlds of what I saw for these EU teams and how these players have performed and whatnot. My choice would probably be Ignar. I think Ignar is phenomenal with Max Lore and their synergy with jungle and support as a duo. And not only that, but I think Ignar being able to work with Hans Sama, which is like a new AD carry, is a feat that shouldn't go unnoticed, right? Because it's someone who hasn't been in LCS for that long, and you have to sort of raise this guy up to match all the other epic ADCs that are within EU. So he had that job as well, and being an import, it's like obviously his communication skills are lacking too. And without Ignar, a lot of things weren't being done on Misfits when it came to making plays upon the map. So you have Ignar as like this linchpin to get things started and to get an advantage for the entire team. So I think that was a very standout thing to determine my Player of the Year for the EU region. And then of course there's LCK, and LCK I would have to say is definitely Cuvée. Cuvée has just been stomping the top lane pretty hard. He kept up with Khan, Smeb, everything, and he came back full force and won Worlds. And it was largely because at the Worlds meta, or the Worlds tournament, there weren't a lot of good top laners. So that kind of showed that Cuvée is actually a really good top laner out of some of, I guess, the worst top laners, to be fair, right? I would only consider maybe Khan and Soaz up there with Cuvée, but even still they're below him, so he didn't have that tough of competition. But that goes to show of how good Cuvée actually is at the game and at top lane. And I just think throughout the whole entire year, he's done extremely well for himself, and he's propelled Samsung Galaxy to kind of a whole new level to be able to win the actual World Championship. Now, most improved player. This one I don't want to do for any other regions besides North America because I haven't watched entirely all of their games, so I may be missing out on some nuances of exactly who should deserve most improved player of the year. And so for NA, I think that would be Pobelter. Pobelter was on fire for 2017. I mean, his trajectory from spring split all the way into summer split, and he just kept climbing in summer split, and especially summer split. His play was super phenomenal. He really didn't lose lane in summer split, and he kept up with also Bjergsen and Jensen, and it's just like to keep up with those two guys and yet still be one of these, heralded as the best NA player currently in the mid lane. I think it's extraordinary, and it also boosted his value for 2018 rosters as well too. So I just think his year in 2017 was fantastic, and I don't think you could ask any more from Pobelter, given his current situations with the team constantly switching out junglers and everything. So I think he did really well for himself. Now, for greatest play in the regular season in North America, the greatest play that was ever done. I went over some of the plays. I looked at some of the breakdowns from what I think it's Irene that's doing it now, or Chat. I don't know when they switched, but I was looking through some of those, and then I was remembering some of the plays that happened throughout the whole entire split of spring split and summer split. And one that keeps standing out to me was Bjerg's Realm Warp on Rise versus Team Liquid in Week 2 Spring Split. That play was ridiculous. I had never seen anyone use Rise's TP so efficiently in order to execute on objectives. And if you remember this play, it was they were pushing the top lane, and they're at the enemy top lane inhibitor, and then they're at the enemy top lane inhibitor, and then they pull back as Team Liquid are coming back to match that. And so they pull back and they realm warp back over down to Baron, and they secure Baron. No one is there to contest it, and they close out the game after that. And it's just that type of thought process, that thinking, whether it was Bjerg's call, whether it was Doublelift's call, I don't really know, but that was nuts. Oh wait, no, that would have been Wild Turtle, but that was insane. I think it was one of the best plays within the entire year, even including Worlds and internationally. I think it definitely would rank up there, regardless. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the 2017 season as far as competitive. But as my personal favorite things in 2017, I guess in my life, right, is that I have completed my first year in esports content. So I'm gonna go ahead and give that a congratulation, right? So cheers. By the way, San Diego beer, Ballast Point, it's really good. um so first year in esports content, it's been phenomenal. I've learned a ton. I have learned a ton about writing just from looking at all the different writers that are within the current scene, and I started on videos before I even did my written articles. And so with writing, I've always been pretty decent at writing, so it was an easy transition for me in the beginning because I had already known how to structure my writing, what my writing style actually is, and then to fit that within an esports context, right? So the writing wasn't so much of a problem for me, but it was the videos that were more of a problem, because I've always been decent at speech, but then I realized my speech wasn't the greatest at all starting off in the beginning. And so I would research different people at speech patterns. I had researched Martin Luther King. I had researched Thorne even. Thorne's a really good proponent of the speech medium. So I'd researched a whole bunch of different people in terms of speech patterns and recognizing exactly how they do their videos or how they speak and how to captivate an audience and such. And so that just made me expand my esports content and to do it a little bit better than what I had been doing previously at the beginning of the year. So, and then finally, I have moved to LA, as you can tell by the background. Um, so you can expect more interviews in 2018 as I will be actually at the NALCS studio. So you can expect those interviews. You can expect me one-on-one with some players asking some really tough questions that I don't think a lot of interviewers are comfortable with touching on or just haven't even thought of. I'm not sure what the case is, but you can expect interviews from me. You can expect more esports content. I'm kind of going full force into this too. So you can just expect a bigger and better Izento when it comes to 2018. So I'll see you guys then. Peace.